to tell the Rebbe the words of the new song that we're singing with Mashiach, right? So I'm just going to read him. Am Yisrael, have no fear. Mashiach will be here this year. We want Mashiach now. We don't want to wait. Okay? We want Mashiach now. We want Mashiach now. Oh yeah, Am Yisrael, have no fear. Mashiach will be this year. Am Yisrael, have no fear. Mashiach will be here this year. We want Mashiach now. We want Mashiach now. We don't want to wait. We want Mashiach now. Mashiach now. We don't want to wait. Am Yisrael, have no fear. Mashiach will be here this year. Am Yisrael, have no fear. Mashiach will be here this year. We want Mashiach now. We want Mashiach now. We want Mashiach now. We don't want to wait. We want Mashiach now. We want Mashiach now. We want Mashiach now. We don't want to wait. Hey!
Oh, sorry. Thought I added us. So,
No worries.
so welcome everyone. And also, just heads up, that's 1 second. I accidentally have. Yeah, I had. That was it. I had accidentally had another. Basically, I had the video running in the background, so I had the sound going. But yeah. Welcome everyone. It's just going to be calm, cool, probably not too long. But yeah, I did want to just take a bit more time to look at everyone's comments on what we just covered, as well as covering like some of the. I think it maybe be interesting to look into. Well, especially because this is what I have left up from my last stream. So here you have Ashra versus Astarte. Basically, this role of the mother, the maiden, and what I think it's interesting is you can even see these common traits are shared with, for instance, so you have Ashera or Kaibali, and they're what do they wear on their head?
I don't remember. What do they wear on their head?
So here, let me see if I can find it.
Is it like a laurel or a crown?
So it's a type of crown.
A diadem?
Type, but here I'm pulling up a picture. Let's see, where is it? Okay, yeah, here. Need to share screen. Present here. Check this out.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wait, shoot. Can you see this?
It's a little blurry now. Okay.
Oh, here. That's what I was looking for.
Oh, a castle?
So it's a turreted headdress.
Interesting.
In other cases, it's depicted almost like how we would imagine the Tower of Babel. But so this is something that you see with not just her, but you see it with Taiki and Fortuna as well.
Okay, that's really cool.
So do you have any sort of parallel to this within the Vedic or Hindu tradition?
Like that kind of a crown? I'm trying to think. I'm not like immediately sure offhand. I mean, you do get golden crowns that you see often that the goddess wears, specifically like the goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth. Um,
Oh, interesting.
but it more looks like a tower kind of thing rather than a turret. But it could be something similar. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think it's likely that we're just dealing with a case of, let's see, shoot, I forgot where is it here. Let's see, I had it pulled up here. So this is from 1587. So this is being affected by,
Yeah,
medieval culture.
exactly.
I mean, you can even see the city off in the distance. It's very distinctly European.
Yeah, no, I think this does seem reminiscent of some of the headdresses that the goddess wears, specifically in her form of either like Lakshmi or Saraswati. Interesting. Okay. But I
Yeah,
did want to kind of talk about this, like, because we were talking about the ancient old gods, right? And like the goddess figure, right? The mother goddess is by far the oldest figure that we have. One of the one like when I was looking at stuff before our stream, I found a mother goddess figure that was 800,000 years old that was found in Israel.
interesting. Wait, so I
Mhm.
mean, so this is one of the things that I think it was actually, yeah, I was talking about it with Graham about what was it, the find that people are chalking up to being an Ashura, the like 7,000-year-old juniper tree or something, the stump.
Mhm.
And I mean, frankly, so I was talking to Chris about Chris Bennett, and
Yeah.
his opinion on this is that it's not an Ashura, that like basically that it, and so the reason he said that, it was less so based off of like, oh, we know this isn't an Ashura. It's more so based off of the fact that it would have been recognized by that name at that time. But that's not to say that it doesn't have some sort of association with a fertility goddess, especially because it's a juniper tree. Which I mean, wait, what type of like new age shop did you work in? Was it like a herbal shop or?
It was mostly a crystal shop, but it also did a lot of stuff like collecting things from all over the world. So we sold a lot of things from India, from South America, things like Palo Santo, incense.
But yeah, so juniper berries are used like in some magical contexts as like association with the mother goddess, and I think that's likely to do with their use as, I think, fertility aids or some sort of like actually it might be for menstrual cramps. I forget, but something to do with like feminine issues, and or not issues. It's weird that I phrase it that way, but like basically feminine hygiene, but within like a medical context or a medicinal context. And so that might be the connection to the mother goddess. But the fact that the tree stump that they found in Israel in Eilat, which is interestingly enough, Eilat is a form of the name Elat, which is the feminine form of El, which means
Oh
God.
wow, that's interesting. So yeah, I found that article that I was talking about. So it says it's at they
If you want
found
to,
this.
if you want to share it,
Let me see. How do I do that?
you just press present.
Okay. Share screen.
Oh, it's interesting. So Mateus said she's the throne, which it's interesting because she, or like wisdom, is referred to as basically the object through which kings and princes reign, and you could view that as a throne. I mean,
So is it sharing my screen now or?
oh, here, I'll pull it up. Sorry, I didn't realize that you did.
Okay.
Okay, here.
Yeah, so the Venus of Berkut Ram, the world's oldest piece of art that predates humans, right? So this is what the figure looks like here. And they say between 2,300 and 700,000 years ago, right? In this area in Israel. Like predates human beings. We've been worshiping this mother goddess type figure. It's quite wild to think about.
Wait, you mean it predates human beings according to the Bible?
Yeah, well, like I mean, our modern humans, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, here, let me see if I can find something about the let's see, what was it? Asherah. Hey, lots. Huh. Yeah, I'm not able to find anything off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, like, what's the counterpart to Shiva in Vedic tradition? Like basically, who's his? It's Shakti, right?
This is where it gets complicated because like Shiva and Shakti are synonymous. They're one character. It's just that Shiva often appears as a Shakti, which can take on the form of various goddess figures. Within the Shaivite tradition, there are three that typically occur. You have Parvati, who is like his virgin bride, who is also the Kundalini snake. She's the one who goes off into the wilderness and wakes Shiva up. Then you have Durga, which is the divine mother, the mother in her spirit as protector. She's the one who rides the lion. This is the seen as the most defensive and the most compassionate form of the goddess. And then you get the goddess Kali, which is time itself. So the ravages and the full expression of time. But time is also seen as transformative. So again, always with the goddess, there's this understanding of this deep compassion, even when she's in her worst form, you know?
Wow. So let's see. So I think I've brought this up before, but what's it called? There's a parallel in Jewish tradition, at least I think. So let's see. Okay, here. I'm going to pop up sharing the screen, but also here. Wait, does it? Where is it? Okay, here. So are you able to see this?
Yeah.
Would you mind reading it? I'm just a bit stuffed up right now.
Okay, let me see here. It's gonna make my screen big. So it says, another explanation. Now they brought the tabernacle. This is what is written. Go out, O daughters of Zion, and gaze upon King Solomon, upon the crown with which his mother crowned him on the day of his nuptials, and on the day of the joy of his heart. When was this verse said? On the day that the tabernacle was erected, when there was great joy in Israel, because the Holy One dwelled among them. Daughters of Zion, meaning children who are distinguishable by the idolaters through their dedication to me. Just as a marker can be identified by pointing, so too can Israel can be identified by pointing, and thus they are daughters of Zion, who are distinguishable upon King Solomon, upon the king to whom peace belongs, who is the king, King of kings, the Holy One, blessed be he, upon the crown which his mother crowned him. This refers to the tabernacle. Why did they call it a crown? Just as a crown is decorated, so too the tabernacle was decorated as it says. That connects to your whole thing that you were talking about where Asherah is the Torah. If it's synonymous with the tabernacle, right? The thing that contains and holds the Torah. That's interesting.
And not just that, but like for instance, this was something that was seen as very heretical, and I mean it was, but so during, I forget if this was a Sabbatean or a Frankist thing, but there was a case where a rabbi where like the rabbi's wife basically stripped down to absolutely nothing and danced around the synagogue because she was emulating the Torah. And if just for context for anyone who doesn't know, part of Jewish tradition during it's in special like context, like especially holidays, you like unravel the Torah, not the whole way, but you basically you take off its clothes, you open it, given it's not viewed in that context, but that is what it is. You take off its clothes, you unravel it, and then you show it, or you basically dance with it around the entire synagogue. And so it's Simchat Torah. This happened on Simchat Torah. So basically in this you have this connotation. I mean, because within Jewish tradition you have the understanding that that like Jewish women embody the Shekhinah, but then if the Shekhinah is also the Torah, then them embodying the Shekhinah as the Torah, I mean, given this was just one case and it wasn't like, it's not something that became doctrinal or even within the Sabbateans, but it is interesting to note nonetheless that you do have this connection between the Torah, between wisdom, and between Asherah.
Yeah, so there's this comment here where by Mr. Blazing 420 where he says a simple search is Shiva is male or female comes back Shiva is male. He's the phallic symbol. Okay, this is a very oversimplification. So Shiva is, yes, a male figure and is depicted often as a male figure, but is also Adrinahari Ishvara, is also the Shakti. Even that phallic symbol, which you're talking about, is the lingam. It's often a phallus inside a yoni, a vagina. It's the duality of both of these things. Or it is seen as an egg that is usually wrapped by two color bands, right? And you get this connection of the Shiva and the Shakti as one. And again, it also depends upon the tradition that you're talking about. Within the Shaivite traditions, Shiva and Shakti are one. But then when you get within the Vaishnava traditions, which still have Shiva, Shiva is just the destroyer. Or if you get into some of the more Vedantic traditions or the smartest traditions. But trust me when I say this, Shiva is not just a male. Shiva is everything. Shiva is definitely female at times. Shiva is Shakti. Shakti is Shiva.
So I have a good response to this. Is Yahweh male?
Ooh, interesting. Yeah, right. I mean,
yes and no.
Right? Yeah. Yes and no.
Because, like, I mean, you look into it, given there's a more esoteric understanding of it, but the Yod He Vav He, the Yod is the king, the first He is the queen, or I forget exactly how to explain it, but basically, is the queen to the king. But then you have this understanding of, and again, I'm like trying not to, because part of this is like just natural conclusions I'm drawing, and the other is like Jewish tradition. So basically, you have the idea that the first Yod, basically the first Yod, and well, the only Yod and the last Hey are emblematic of the Yod is the male, or the basically like God above gods, and then the Hey is the Shekhinah, and then in the middle you have I forget, I don't know off the top of my head, but basically you do have this idea that the name Yahweh is both male and female, that it contains both.
Right. And there's also, like, even when you look at the parallel Greek tradition with the figure of Kronos, right? He is castrated and becomes female, and he is described as non-binary. Like there's a gender with these gods, especially within a lot of these different religions. Yeah, Kali comes out of the forehead of Durga, okay, but Durga, Kali, Parvati, this is still just the Shakti of Shiva. Shiva Shakti, right? They're one and the same. Shakti is time, Shiva is timelessness.
Wait,
just
so
because his last incarnation is a man with a stiffy doesn't mean anything either, right? Like,
so could
you're missing the forest for the tree.
Could you almost view timelessness as space, like time and space? Because like timelessness is that which is not dependent on time.
Yeah, right? Like this is where you get into this whole idea that Shiva exists outside of time, right? He's self-created, right? He's there prior to even the existence of the cosmic egg. He's that which heats up the waters. He's that erotic force. He's the force of separation. And it's a parallel thing. It's both male and female, right? You could describe Shiva as the violence, or you could describe him as the sexual, creative, erotic energy,
Also, Chthonius makes a really good point. Since she came out of his head, is there a connection with Kali and Athena?
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier with Neil and with Anat, and I think there definitely is all of this going on.
Yeah, it's just fascinating. Also, another thing, so that I think we just, wait, where was it? Something that we read. Where was it? Oh, it's here, down here. So the, I don't think we read it yet, but embroiderer of blue, purple, and crimson wool. Wait, one second. Give me one moment. Sorry. Okay, so I actually did a live stream a bit earlier. When I was, hold on, I gotta reach out. It's over here. So I was collecting this earlier. I don't know if you can see this. Here, here. I'll zoom in on it. Let's see, where is this? So this is cochineal, or and the stuff that it produces, that red shit, that's carmine. And so interestingly, it's a natural like repellent of, I want to say like predators of basically it's
A bug repellent, or
yeah, what?
a bug repellent, or
No, so this is actually like from bugs. So
okay.
here, I'm gonna squish it and see if you can see. So oh, I have to open it first. That pressure might create a problem. So here, so
Mhm.
I don't know how well you, yeah, so I mean,
Yeah, it's cool.
yeah, so Rat King just said it. So it's the red dye from the Old Testament. So it's a different species, but it's basically the same dye. And so yeah, like you can just you take this white stuff, pour water on it, it turns the water red. So there might be some connection there with the idea of, you know, turning water into wine, especially because the animals that produce, or the bugs that produce it, they basically produce it from just regular like from cacti. And so same with the trees and the type in the Bible, they basically suck the water, the moisture out of the plant, and they turn it into this red stuff, like when you squish it. But you can't get it without killing them. And so it's interesting because that's one of the Psalms that Jesus quotes. The one that's like, oh Lord, why have you forsaken me? The next part is, I am but a worm. I am not a man. I am a worm. But the word is tolat, and that's the same type of species that's responsible for producing this rat. And so there's some Christians who they connect it with this idea of like the white, like the sinlessness of the white, but then the blood of the red. Though it's more likely that it's just this idea of the way that he's depicted with like the white clothing, but then the blood. I don't know. It's definitely interesting. And then yeah, Rat King says it. Tolat Shani, which yields a dye called in the Bible Shani Tola Carmel. And so interestingly, so have you ever heard of the region of Kermanshah in Iran?
Yes.
So that's from the same root, carmine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's really wild. Like when you see how connected the world is, it's honestly mind blowing.
Definitely, right? Like there's so much going on here.
So,
And this, go
oh
ahead.
yeah,
Sir.
no, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, yeah, we see so much of this mother goddess tradition everywhere, right? And we see the same thing too with these male figures with the horns, who are surrounded by animals, you know, uh, and the snakes. It's pretty interesting how common this idea of the snake in the tree, the male and the female, the yin and yang we see.
There's a snake in my tree. Honestly, so, like someone has to meme that, like, you know, turn into like a, what is it, like soundboard.
Yeah,
You know?
for sure. But like, yeah. Also, to answer Chthonius' question here, could the original mother be Gaia? Yeah, it could be. Definitely could be mother. It could be Rhea, right? Flo. The idea, right? I think in both the Indian and the Greek traditions is you have a passive force and you have an active force. You have that which is being molded and shaped by something else, and you know, sometimes these are male and female, sometimes these are matter and fire, right? It really depends on who's describing it, but it's usually this duality of forces that's come from a separation.
It's interesting. So in Kabbalah, what it is, so you have the first cause is air, is avir, and that's the dividing line between the mem, the water, and the shin, the ash, the fire. So the maim and the ash, and basically it's this idea that, yeah, I've covered this with Graham. It's really interesting. And then Cathania says, or is she another name for Earth? Is she a goddess Titan? Would she have a form? So I think part of like what we're going to read, it kind of goes into this idea. She's all of them.
Yeah.
like she's the beginning and the end in the same way that, like God is understood as. So interestingly enough, so if Jesus is the last man, or not the last man, but basically if Jesus is the Omega, who's the Alpha? Is it God or is it Adam? It all depends on what you think Jesus is. Is he God or is he man? Because there's already an implication in Jubilees that I guess arguably within Genesis even, that God in a way, or that Adam in a way is God, but that like this idea of this like the separation of Adam from Eve, that there might be some idea that when he was put into a sleep so that he would forget, that what he forgot was not just that she came from his rib, but something else.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think there's like with some of these traditions, like with Gaia, right? Gaia is representative of the matter itself that's being shaped, right? Like that's that passive force, that's that consciousness that's being attacked by this active force of separation,
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter if it's male or female. I think they're both male and female in a sense, It's kind of beyond this. It's more about the force towards separation and then the matter that is being separated.
It's almost like the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
Like you have the male within the female and the female within the male.
Exactly. That's exactly.
Light and dark and dark and light.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So Giordano Bruno talks about the mind palace technique. It's a mystical art of memory. And then Mattei says, I need to learn about Giordano Bruno. Blazing Upside. Sekhmet comes from the Eye of Ra. Sekhmet, whose name means she is powerful, or the one who loves Ma'at, who is a goddess of the hot desert sun. Plague, chaos, war, and healing. Sounds like Set. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, connection there for sure. Very interesting.
Yeah, so let's see. What else was there? So Rat King says it was used for dyeing the curtains of the tabernacle. Crimson Worm. Carrie Ann has to go. Oh, definitely, yeah. Let's see. What's the angel category for the throne of God? Matthias Q. The throne of God. I'm not sure I completely understand, but it might be the Aralim, or like the thrones. Is that what you mean? I'm guessing that's what you mean. It's probably the Aralim. Goddess of the mountain was Mari. Oh, okay. So yeah, the queen of witches. She waits for a serpentine lover, Sugar Maju. Their lovemaking creates the storms. So interesting. Maju or Magu or Mago. How much do you know about that name?
Not too much. It sounds like Magog.
So that's actually what I was thinking. So one second. I'm right here. I just plug in something. So have you ever heard of the concept of let's see, I'm trying to think. Actually, never mind, because this is something that was pretty new to me. So have you ever heard of the goddess Magu or Mago?
No, I haven't.
So she's I think a Korean or like a Southeast Asian. I don't know if it's specific to Korea, but Southeast Asian deity that's associated of all things with cannabis.
Of course.
And so I do actually remember hearing a reference to her before, but it never clicked because, it's a whole example of, I forget what the phenomena is called, but basically where, you hear something a bunch of times, never realize something, but then you hear something similar to it, or you hear about it, and then all of a sudden you notice all of the times it's mentioned. But basically, so Magu, here, let me just switch real quick to show you this. So, let's see, Magu. Magu goddess. Okay. Here, share this tab instead. Magu, hemp lady, is celebrated as the goddess of longevity. Now, it's also important to mention that Ashura, or at least that, like, wisdom or the tree of life, in Proverbs is referenced as she is a tree of life. All who grasp her are happy, and those who hold on to her like I forget exactly what it is, but it talks about in her right hand is Orach Chai or Orach Yamim is the length of days. It's saying if you follow her, like she has long, basically she love you long time. She has a long she like if you love her, you will live a long time. It's what it's saying. So in her right hand is Orach Yamim, long days or like length of days or long time essentially, and then in her left hand are riches and honor. And so you have this idea where it's almost saying she's both Fortuna and she's also Magu. I mean, and given it's kind of like reading it into it, but anyway, so she's often portrayed as a young woman with claw-like fingernails, wearing an apron or shawl of leaves, and carrying either a basket of fungus or peaches or a container of fungus wine, all foods believed to promote long life. And so what's interesting is, Magu, Maku, or Mako. Interesting. I wonder if that might have some connection with the Mako shark. I have no clue, but basically, so I realized there might be a connection between her and between Magosh, who was, oh wow, holy crap, I didn't even realize this before. So Magosh and Amunosh, or I don't know why I'm saying it with the weird the all right, so here, so look at this. So parentage. Siddiq and Mitzor, or potentially Set and Osiris. I mean that's my whole theory. I don't know if I need to talk with like someone who has more knowledge in this field to like to find a reason why this isn't the case, or to see why they think it could be potentially. But basically, Siddiq and Mitzor, or Set and Osiris, are reported to be the sons of Amunos and Magosh. Now Amunos Us is generally known as Baal Hamon, who, like the Egyptian god Ammon, was worshipped as a ram. The Greeks associate him with Kronos, time, and the Romans with Saturn. Amunos, or Hamon, and that's also connected to Avram turning into Avrahamon, shortened to Avraham, was a fertility and vegetation god. As such, I am immediately drawn to the Egyptian god Osiris. Interesting. Whose astrological station is often given as being in Taurus. However, the ram sits on the back of the bull, as both Hamon and Osiris okay, hold on. Let's see. Which sits on the left shoulder of Origo, which is okay. Now Hamon's wife is called Tanit. She is considered to be similar to the goddess Astarte. What? That doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
Tanit is associated with rain, but it would be Tiamat. But as it seems, all ancients associated the moon with the provider of all water. And I mean, it makes sense because you have this connection between the tidal lock and the moon.
Mm-hmm.
It comes as no surprise, but Tanit was also considered a virginal goddess of war, a nurse, and a symbol of fertility. All of these attributes can also be placed on Isis, the virginal Egyptian moon goddess and consort of Osiris. She helped Osiris care for the crops. She acted as a nurse, where she put his dismembered body back together. She helped her son Horus in his battles with Seth or Set. And of course, spring begins in... Okay, hold on. Let's see. I mean, it seems like this is mainly talking about... But anyway, so Amunos and Magos. So Magos is the wife of Amunos, or Kronos, who is associated with basically being the creator of, or at least the ruler of the world. In Egyptian tradition, though, Amunos was literally the creator of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on that?
It's very interesting. There's so many parallels with all this Magoo thing. Yeah.
What was this in response to, Mateus? You're cracking up. So let's see. So the Maklu or Burning series is an Akkadian incantation which concerns the performance of a rather lengthy anti-witchcraft or Kispus ritual. So that's interesting because Maklu or Makel means stick in Hebrew.
Hmm.
Let's see. Rat King said, Ariel, look into the Tocharian culture. These are mummies discovered in the Tarim Basin. Scythian mummies are shared in Discord. Definitely. I'll look into it sometime. Yeah. Let's see. How did Arabic words come to Japan? I mean, you have Kazua and Japan Kazua. Mina Mina. I'm not sure. Rat will be back. See. Maklu sounds like Maju. Not really, to be completely honest. Isis, Hosea, Horus. Honestly, I don't see it. It's just the first parts. These were the witches of Subeshi. When I look close at marijuana, I see sugar all over it. Well, those are trichome heads, but I mean, it's definitely interesting. I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, it's interesting how even the shape of trichomes are mushrooms. If you think about
Right.
it,
No, that's yeah. I've noticed that too. It's kind of it's definitely an interesting thing.
either mushrooms or trees. But the point is, there's this definite connection. It's like a fractal pattern.
Right.
Um, oh, to the love you long time. I mean, it fit perfectly, though. I do want to clarify. I would have said that even if Maju or Magu was not, an Orient, and I'm only using that in the context of, like, okay, like, want to specify, like, within the context of, I want to be careful. In the context of ancient. Well, actually, yeah, it's kind of strange. Like, why do we still even use that term if it's so antiquated? I mean, like, it's actually kind of stupid if you think about it. That Oriental is seen as offensive, but Asian isn't. They literally mean the same fucking thing.
It's all about context, right? And stuff.
Yeah.
This used to blow my mind. Like I remember one time in university applying to write a paper to a journal of Orientalist studies and just like cringing super hard, It's like,
Yeah.
but it
But
means something different within academia. But you see this all the time. It's like the crystal shop I work at or used to work at is called Modern Primitive. And
oof,
then
oof.
everything they had was non-European cultures. It's just like, dude.
Oof.
And I even tried to call him out on it, and the guy was just like, "No, man, we're taking it back. It's like queer. We're taking it back." I'm like, "It's not your job to take back primitive, man." Like, shit.
Oh my god. It's like why not use? I mean, there's so many words that have the same context of primitive, like primary or like the
Yeah,
first. Like,
original.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be too thrilled if he would appropriate from Hebrew, but if he would use kadmon, like it literally means the same thing.
Yeah,
Or like, why not primordial?
yeah, or or be like modern ancestors. There you go.
But yeah.
I don't know. Just
So
yeah.
let's see. So where was it? Right here. So here, can you continue? So this is just it gets really interesting.
Yeah, just 1 second here. I'm gonna switch back. Okay. All right. Do. Okay. So idolaters, through their dedication to me, just as a marker can be identified by pointing, so too Israel can be identified by pointing, and thus they are daughters of Zion, who are distinguishable upon King Solomon, upon the king to whom peace belongs, who is the king, king of kings, the Holy One, blessed be he, upon the crown with which his mother crowned him. This refers to the tabernacle. Why did they call it a crown? Just as a crown is decorated, so too the tabernacle is decorated, as it says.
Also, just real quick. So, Eshet Chayil in Proverbs 31 is also referred to as the crown of her husband.
Okay, cool. And an embroiderer with blue, purple, and crimson wool, and linen of weavers, those who do every manner of work, and master weavers. This is the crown with which his mother crowned him. Yitzhak said, I went over all of the scriptures, and I did not find anywhere that Bathsheba made a crown for Shlomo. R. Simon Bar Yochai asked R. Elizar Bar Yoshi, "Is it possible that you heard from your father? What is this crown with which his mother crowned him?" He replied, "Yes. It is like a king who had only a daughter. He loved her too much and would call her my daughter. He kept loving her until he called her my sister and until he called her my mother. So too at first the Holy One called Israel daughter, as it says, 'Hearken, daughter, and see and incline your ear and forget your people in your father's house.' He kept loving them to the point of calling them my sister, as it says, 'Open for me, my sister, my beloved, my dove, my perfect one. For my head is full of dew, my locks with the drops of the night.' He did not cease to love them to the point of calling them my mother. As it says, 'Hearken to me, my people and my nation. Bend your ears to me when Torah shall emanate from me,
Oh,
and my
so
judgment shall be the light of the people.'"
so for context, so what it's saying le'umi, it's saying
Mhm.
le'umi is le'ami or le'imi,
Okay.
because the word nation umi is connected with the word for mother, emi, or my mother.
Okay. Interesting. "I will give them rest." Ar Shimon Bar Yochai stood up and kissed him on his head. On the day of the nuptials, this was at Sinai. On the day of the joy of his heart, this is in Jerusalem. Another explanation. On the day of his wedding in the tabernacle, on the day of his heart's joy in the holy temple, so too David said, "The fairest of branches, the joy of the entire earth, Mount Zion by the north side, the city of a great king." Ar Yochanan B. Elizar said, "There was once a peddler who went to Jerusalem to sell his wares. He went and sat there and made no sales. He said, 'This is the place about which they say, joy of the entire earth.' After 1 hour, he had sold his entire stock. He said, 'The fairest of branches, the joy of the entire earth.'" Ar Yochanan said, "There was a chamber of accounting outside of Jerusalem, and anyone who wanted to think about such things would go there. Why? In order that they shouldn't do their calculations in Jerusalem and be troubled by them, because she is called joy of the entire earth. And why all this praise? Because she was the city of a great king. Once she was destroyed, rejoicing, past, and the joy of all the earth was exiled." What does the language of Arva passed on mean? It was dark and obscured, as it says. It was evening, and it was morning one day. In this world, the joy of all the earth has ceased. And when the Holy One rebuilds Jerusalem, he will return all the joy to her, as it says, "For the Lord shall console Zion. He shall console all its ruins, and he shall make its desert like a paradise, and its wasteland like the garden of the Lord. Joy and happiness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and a voice of song."
Wow, this is like really beautiful. And the thing is, so here it's talking about the desert and the ruins, and this is a clear callback to Ezekiel 19, which is seriously, honestly, I think I'm going to at some point paint this like into
Mhm.
like I'll write it out and then I'll like in a calligraphical way. I don't know exactly
Mhm.
how I'll do it, but here the part where it's what a lioness was your mother, talks about her raising up her sons as lions. Your mother was like a vine in your blood or in your image, planted beside strings with luxuriant boughs and branches, thanks to abundant waters, literally Mayim Rabim. um, and she had mighty rod. So here it translates as mighty rod, but literally matot oz, so rods of mightiness, fit for here's this word. Where is it? El Shivtei Mishlim. So for ruling the tribes,
Hmm.
um, or staffs of proverbs, or like staffs of leadership. So you could read it way for like El Shivtei for the tribes Mishlim, like to rule over them. Um, but yeah, so it towered highest amongst the leafy trees. Towered. Keep in mind, towered. It was conspicuous by its height, by the abundance of its boughs. But plucked up in a fury, she was hurled to the ground. The east wind, which is the hot wind, withered her branches. They broke apart and dried her up, and her mighty rod was consumed by fire. Now she is planted in the desert, in ground that is
Hmm.
arid and parched. Fire has issued from her twig-laden branch, and it consumed her boughs. She is left without a mighty rod, a scepter to rule with. So, like, do you think there might be a connection there?
Oh, definitely. And this also just harkens back to a lot of these Canaanite and like Sumerian ideas that the goddess appoints the king of the gods, right? Like first the goddess marries El, and then the god marries Yahweh, right? Uh, and like also like this whole idea that she's gonna come back with the scepter and this tree in the desert, like yeah, some interesting stuff going on.
Do you have any parallels in Vedic tradition?
I'm trying to think here. Okay, she's living. I'm not sure offhand, to be honest.
Any idea or like any tradition of tree goddesses?
Definitely, you see all kinds of like the goddess is always associated with trees generally, but like I'm trying to think.
So I think we'll
Yeah.
probably so might go for like 15 more minutes and then we'll end off.
Yeah, probably that's for the best. I don't want to go too late either. Yeah, what we do see though is we do see this idea of the power of the goddess, right? Like the goddess is the manifestations of the power. She's the power behind the god. You see this within a lot of these traditions as well. Like the goddesses are representative of this active force, the knowledge, the wisdom, right? And God is more of this authority behind the scenes, right? Who's unmoving and cold and yeah.
Let's see if I can find it because that ties with another one. Let's see. Also, it's just so clear to me how the etymology like developed. So this is talking about wisdom again. So sorry, once. It's a good cough. Well, I mean, I'd say that except for the fact that I'm sick again. So
No.
Yeah, I have honestly no. It's ever since I got COVID the second time, I can't stay well for more than like a month or more than a few weeks, honestly. But so
That's
so
awful.
so ani chokhmah. I am. Yeah, it is awful, but I mean, on the bright side, hopefully it's just because I have like something in my nose I'm getting removed in 2 weeks. So hopefully they'll take care of it. So ani chokhmah. I am wisdom. So here it translates it as live with prudence, but shachanti, I dwell. And so this word shachanti, it's connected to Shekhinah. I dwell, arma, was it like in craftiness or in prudence? Vida'at, in knowledge. Mizmot, emsa. And I see. I dwell in prudence and knowledge I seek out. Wait, what's mizmot? Knowledge and discretion I seek out. So to fear the Lord is to hate evil. I hate pride, arrogance, the evil way, and duplicity in speech. So like have it here. The word is upi tahafachot, perversity perversity. So perversity, like the mouth of perversity, I hate. Mine are counsel and resourcefulness. I'm understanding. Ani bina li gevura. So here it says courage is mine, but literally. So here you have ani bina. I am. What is it? I am bina, understanding, and gevura is mine. And so bina is the sephira right directly above gevura, not in front of, but on top of on the tree of life. And then
interesting.
And then so he melachim yimalchu. In me, kings are crowned, or like kings are king. Kings do king, like king's king, basically. Kings reign. Verezonim yechokeku tzedek. And so here, tzedek is also connected with chesed. So here you have so far, chokhmah, bina, dot, chesed, gevura. So far you have the and I think there's probably a reference to crown here somewhere, but the point is you have a bunch of the sephirot being referenced here. So rezonim yechokuku. So through me, rezonim, like rulers decree just laws. That's what it says. Be in me, Sharim Yasharu, princes rule, or princes, prince. And here's this word Sharim, or wait, is it Sar? No, it's Sarim. So Sarim, but it still has the connection to, Aser,
Mm-hmm.
or Asher, Asherah, um, and Nidivim, Kol Shoftei Tzedek, and like righteous men, or the great men, all of them are judges of righteousness. Ani Ahavea, I love Ohavai, I love my lovers. Ahev, or wait, I was this I Ahav. Oh, yes, I love my lovers. Umishachrai, um, Shachar, and black. What is this? Oh, and those who seek me will find me. Um, Riches and honor. Oser v'kavod. Um, I will get. Oh, et are mine. Hon atek. Oh, this is this wealth it's saying? Oh wait, wealth, atek, like handed forward, advanced. So basically like ancestral wealth, and righteousness, or tzedakah. My fruit is better than gold, fine gold, and my produce better than choice silver. I walk on the way of righteousness. So here you have this connection with the paths. Nativot mishpat. So like she's connected with paths, or with crossroads. I know those who love me with substance, I will fill their treasuries. And then here is where it says, Adonai Kanani, the Lord acquired me, Reshit Darko, at the beginning of his works, or his paths, Kedem Miflaos, the first of his works of strength, or from strength. From a past long gone, I was poured out from the head of eternity, from the head of the eternity of the world. When there were no depths, I swelled forth. When there were no springs, when there were no springs heavy with water. Before the mountains were set, before the hills were born, or no, before the hills I was born. And he had not yet made for earth and field, or the world's first clumps of clay. I was there when he set the heavens into place, when he fixed the horizon upon the deep, when he made the heavens above firm and the fountains of the deep gush forth, when he assigned the sea its limits so that waters never transgress his command, when he fixed the foundation of the earth. I was with him as in Ammon. And then tying us back to where we were, kind of this whole, Ouroboros almost.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no. Again, right? The goddess is the active power of wisdom, right? She is it who appoints the king. It's really interesting.
So it's actually kind of interesting because it's understood as the opposite, or actually no. So not knowledge is more so like androgynous. You have wisdom is male and understanding is female, but they're both female in opposition to the masculine. Well, so this is actually where it gets tricky because Keter is neither masculine or feminine, but it's masculine in comparison to the feminine of Malchut. So it's like the heavens are both, it's like Uranus is not strictly, male, but within the context of Uranus and Gaia, then he is. Like this idea, it's almost like how you have the heavens as just as a concept versus the heavens as an entity.
Yeah, I think that something like knowledge and wisdom is kind of beyond these male and female things, but they can take on male and female forms, right? Like they can take on an active or a passive role, and they can appear in that kind of a guise, right? And the myths use this kind of language to talk about it at certain times, but I don't see them as particularly either one sex specifically. It's all context based. You see this a lot within like the Indian traditions, where like the knowledge that Shakti provides is a knowledge of action. It's a knowledge of how to do things, where it's like the knowledge that Shiva provides is the knowledge of the unity of the one. They both are knowledge, but of a different form,
Yeah. And so what do you make of this whole idea of that she is a pleasure, like she is the pleasures of God, and that she take, so it's like it says rejoicing before him at all times, but literally playing before him at all times. I mean, there seems to be almost like a sexual connotation to it.
Yeah, I think there definitely is. And like this is deeply understood in the Indian tradition, right? Like they use the word lila, which is play, but it also has this sexual understanding. It's this eroticism, right? Creation is an erotic thing. It's both destructive and creative. It's violence and beautiful. It's,
Yeah, I mean, like it's so clear, even just in the language that we use to describe it. I mean, people like I mean, it feels weird to say it, but even like the term smashing or banging or plowing or
of course, right? Because there is a violence and there is a pain there, but it is not without pleasure, right? You know?
so I mean, it's definitely interesting because like I mean, you even and it's something that I think a lot of religious people are probably really uncomfortable with. But like it's undeniable that there is definitely an aspect of, I mean, not to apply our contemporary labels to it, but essentially of BDSM, and
Yeah.
it's something that people just kind of ignore. But like, I mean, you can see it in the flagellants, with Catholicism. You can see it with the ritual deprivation for the sake of heaven or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
Um,
you see it throughout the yogic traditions. Like I wonder when you see like images of Mahavira or the Buddha in extreme forms of asceticism, right? Like there's pleasure to be had there, right? When these guys are destroying the men and women are destroying their bodies through yogic practice, there is pleasure to be had here. There's a transformation that is occurring, right? And the Shaivites and the Tantrikas talk about this. They're very aware of this and they find that there's a magic in this, right? There's a magic in waste. There's a magic in what is discarded, in the dark and in the taboo, you know?
yeah, and like I mean, something that I connect with is like how what sometimes when I get really tired, I start thinking on a different dimension, or like in a different dimension that, I mean, frankly, it's not sustainable to be like that forever. But like, if you could think in that way without having to go through that, it would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know for sure, right? It gets really interesting, right? Um, yeah.
So, so in the Vedic tradition, do you have any parallels with this idea of like where you have this wisdom figure that's understood as like literally rejoicing? So here's the interesting thing. Uh, so, it's saying that she's taking pleasure at Bnei Adam, but it's interesting how it phrases it because she takes pleasure, like it's saying the direct object is the Bnei Adam, the children of Adam or mankind, but it's not saying like she takes pleasure in them or that she takes pleasure with them or she takes pleasure because of them. It's saying she takes pleasure at Bnei Adam. It's
Mm.
like I don't know. It's very esoteric because the idea is that whenever you have an et, that's also a reference to God, but specifically to the Shekhinah.
So like there's this whole thing with this understanding of prajna, okay? And prajna is the word that they use for like it means like wise or knowing. Um and it also like it's reference to a learned person and like having the ability to discriminate between different things. When you get into the Vedas, when in the Upanishads, when they're talking about prajna is something that you taste. Okay, it is like a form of the Shakti, right? In order to experience knowledge, you have to actually embrace it and experience it. So, like, there's this understanding that creation had to occur for prajna to even exist, for there to be any kind of discernment. You cannot have prajna in the Brahman, in the absolute.
Interesting. So you said you taste it.
Yeah, you taste it. Like that's what they described. Like knowledge is something that is experienced. It's like yeah, they use the verb to taste.
Oh, wait. So here, can you read this? This is just amazing. The connection.
Okay, 1 second. Okay. It says, Gemara asks, from where do we derive that it was Doeg who listed the virtues in the verse? Gemara answers, that it is written here, and one Ahad of the servants answered, meaning the most notable of the servants. And it is written there, and a certain man of the servants of Saul was there that day detained before the Lord, and his name was Doeg the Edomite, the chief of the herdsmen that belonged to Saul.
So I don't know how it's connecting it to this, but
Mhm.
anyway, I just wanted to get the context before so that we didn't
Mhm.
miss something.
For sure. The Messiah was blessed with 6 virtues, as it is written, and the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom,
So
and
sorry, I just want to say this. So Mashiach Dachtiv. So it's saying it is written about the Messiah. Then Nacha Alaich Ruach Ha Elohim Ruach Chochma Ubina Ruach Etz. Okay. Oh wow, it's Vigvura Ruach Dat. Holy shit, this is so esoteric. It's saying the spirit of God, the spirit of wisdom, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of Eitzah. What is this? The spirit of trees, maybe? Eitzah, no, the spirit of counsel or advice. The spirit of strength, the spirit of knowledge, and the Yirat Adonai, and the fear of the Lord. And okay, and then here that's a part to. Yeah, that's amazing. I wanted to see if like the thing is, you could read this and you could completely miss the context because you don't get the context of wisdom and understanding. Like sure, but it's not as clear as chokhmah and bina, or you see what I'm saying?
yeah, for sure. Well, that's cool.
Oh yeah, so, continue please.
All right, so where was I? The Messiah was blessed with 6 virtues, as it is written, and the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of the wisdom, Spirit of knowledge, and the fear of the Lord. And it is written, and his delight shall be the fear of the Lord, and he shall neither judge after the sight of his eyes, nor decide after the hearing of his ears. Rabbi Alexander says that the term Hario teaches that God burdened the Messiah with mitzvot and afflictions like milestones or millstones. Rava says that Bario teaches that the Messiah will smell.
So,
and then,
sorry, just real quick, I just realized. So there, the connection with Baal is saying ground with millstones. It's probably a reference. At least this is a reference. The idea of the
yeah,
Messiah,
to what you were reading earlier. Definitely.
yeah, that the Messiah has to like bear a burden, and that's being referenced the weight of a millstone.
Right, he has to be transformed. Okay. All right, and he shall neither judge the sight his eyes nor decide after hearing of his ears, and with righteousness he shall judge the poor and decide equity for the meek of the earth. The Gemara relates Barkosiva
Bar-Kosiva or Bar-Kokhba.
Okay. And Bar Kokhba ruled for 2.5 years and said to the sages, I am the Messiah. They said to him, with regard to the Messiah, it is written that he is able to smell and judge. So let us see ourselves whether he, Bar Kokhba, is able to smell and judge. Once they say that he was not able to smell and judge, the Gentiles killed him. Okay. 6 virtues.
Oh, so just real quick, if you didn't catch that, they're basically implying that he was killed, that like God abandoned his mission because he claimed he was the Messiah, and he wasn't.
Okay.
Even though that's obviously how it's being written in the Talmud, but
yeah. 6 virtues were ascribed to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, as it is written in their regard, youths in whom was found no blemish, well favored and skillful in all wisdom and discerning in knowledge and perceptive in understanding, who had strength in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. The Gemara asks, what is the meaning of the phrase, in whom was found no blemish? Rabbi Hama Bar Hania says, even a scratch like the wound that remains after bloodletting was not found in them. What is the meaning of the phrase, and who had strength in them to stand in the king's place? What strength is needed to do so? Rabbi Hama, son of Rabbi Hania, says. This teaching that they would force themselves to refrain from laughter and from conversation and from sleep, and would restrain themselves when they felt the urge to relieve themselves via their orifices due to the fear of the monarchy. Oh, wow. Couldn't even shit.
Or piss.
Yep. The Gemara explores more of the attributes. The verse states, now among these were the descendants of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Rabbi Eliezer says, they were all of the descendants of Judah. Rabbi Shmuel bar Namia says, Daniel was the descendant of Judah, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, and were descendants of other tribes.
Oh, what the fuck? Wait. Daniel and the others were other tribes. Okay, but look at this.
Okay, Isaiah prophesies to Hezekiah, and of your sons that shall issue from you, they shall be taken away, and they shall be officers in the palace of the king of Babylonia. The Gemara asks, what is the meaning of the Serasim? Rav says, it means literally eunuchs, whom the Babylonians castrated to render them suitable for employment in all aspects of the king's service. And Rabbi Hania says, it means that idol worship was emasculated during their lifetime as it became clear to all that it lacks substance. Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know how they're getting that out of that. But that's interesting because notice how it doesn't say so that they couldn't get the women pregnant. It's saying for all the king's purposes.
Yeah, right? Oh, God, they're probably having their way with them.
That does seem to be the implication. But here, let me just scroll down to see if there's any more about... Oh, yeah. Let's see. But yeah, it's interesting because they have to say, how are they Sarisim? How are they eunuchs? While also being without a blemish. Well, It can't be because the without a blemish is referring to their physical beauty and not to their literal being without,
Yeah.
Wow. So, interesting. Nor had the odor of... Let's see. Okay. I just want to see if this even... this is interesting, but here, I just want to see if there's anything else about the Messiah smelling, and then we can end off.
Okay.
But yeah, so, you think that's an interesting parallel? Because the way that, when I was talking with Graham about this, he explained it that basically smelling, when you smell something, it's, actually, I don't know if it was Graham who said this. It might have been that we were listening to it. I just remember Graham being associated with this. But
it does make me think of, so there is the story of Parvati when she first meets Shiva. It said that she goes out into the wilderness to find him. She finds him and she can't wake him up from his meditation no matter what she does. So she decides to do what he does and enter into a state of meditation. She starves herself except for nothing but lotus seeds, which are psychedelic, by the way. And eventually, after 3 days, she even stops eating the lotus seeds. And then it is said that Shiva smells her finally. And the smell of her austerities causes him to wake up, And this is supposed to be like a metaphor for how you're supposed to raise your Kundalini energy so that you can connect to Shiva.
Interesting.
You're supposed to do what Parvati does,
So here's the so there's only 3 references to the Messiah smelling in the Talmud, and we just read 2 of them. This is the 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here.
Okay, one second.
Oh, and also just for context, so y'all can see. Let's see, where is it? Here. So you have 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so let's see. It says, experts at war choose terrain that they are familiar with and weapons that are suited to the terrain on which the battle is being waged. Moreover, they choose the battlefield. Do not allow the enemy such choice unless they are fighting merely defensively. The Egyptians, it is pointed out, had done exactly the reverse. They moved cavalry into the sea instead of ships. Moses quotes these illogical activities as proof that God had already deprived them of their usual martial intelligence. The Shira shows in detail that what happened to the Egyptians was the opposite of what they had planned. Fleet-footed chariots became hindrances in their flight. That these facts penetrated penetrated the consciousness of Israel is underlined by the change in language from indirect speech with the words, "Your right hand, Lord, is glorious in power." Okay. The fact that what had occurred was an example of God's personal providence is introduced with the letter Vav in the line, "And with the greatness of your excellency, you overthrow them." Of course, God could have destroyed the Egyptians immediately after they had set out in pursuit of the Jewish people, since as soon as you send forth your anger, it would consume them like straw, but you choose otherwise. The same Ruach wind that allowed the Israelites to cross the sea became the doom of the Egyptians. Ruach is used in the dual sense. Okay, in the dual sense,
sorry.
okay, of wind or the ability to breathe, as in smell from afar. Bar Kokhba, claimed to be the Messiah, was disproved by his inability in this respect. If one lacks the basic ingredient necessary for success, ultimate failure is inevitable. The Egyptians, who should have interpreted the Jews' hasty descent into the seabed as an attempt at suicide to forestall defeat or capture, chose to ignore the basic rules of successful warfare. Therefore, their own eventual drowning became inevitable, because it was of their own making. The sequence of events then was as follows. The waters were piled high. 2 stood like a wall. 3 appeared as rigid or frozen. All normal considerations would have alerted the Egyptians to the dangers inherent in pursuing Israel under such conditions. However, 4, the enemy said, "I will pursue, overtake, and I will divide the spoils. My lust will be satisfied. I will draw my sword. My hand will destroy them." They acted irrationally due to the overriding consideration of greed. This was followed by the Egyptians falling victim to their own miscalculations. Since these miscalculations had been known only to God, they had to be recorded at the proper point in the sequence of events. Therefore, you blew with your wind, and the sea covered them. This was followed by, "Who is like you among the mighty, O Lord?"
So that's interesting. It seems like here it's connecting the idea of smell or like so. Also, so just for context, the word for smell is reach. The word for wind is ruach.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I can see that.
So it seems like it's connecting the idea of the Ruach Elohim, the Spirit of God, with the the breath or the smell of man.
Definitely.
Let's see, is this and then interest, let's see. Okay, wait, here there should be let's see. Okay, here, I think this is wait, no, here maybe. Let's see. Okay, here. Can you read this?
Yeah, 1 second. Okay.
Oh wow, this is really esoteric.
Okay. Arbaya bin Asher comment. Once the fire has burned itself out, the whole becomes ruach, spiritualized in the form of rayak, something that can neither be seen anymore, felt anymore, but can only be perceived by our sense of smell. This spirit, ruach, is to pull the goodwill and the outpouring of it to earth via the attribute of mercy. Whoa.
Wow.
That's intense.
Yeah.
Again, like this idea of mercy and this knowledge, very similar in the Indian tradition, makes me think of Kali. Wow. The whole expression, pleasing order to God, Rayak Nichok Aldanai, may be perceived as related to the word Nachak.
Oh, and that's related to the word Noach or Noah.
Okay, interesting.
Oh, and think about it, because he offers a pleasing, like an offering that is pleasing. The smell is pleasing to God, and not only that, but he sends out a bird, a dove, which is symbolic of the Holy Spirit.
That's true. Interesting. The whole expression pleasing order to God may be perceived as related to the word no came to rest settled. We find that in the discussion between the prophet Elijah with his disciple Elisha, who had balked at accepting the mantle of prophecy from Elijah unless the latter endowed him with twice as much ruach spirit as that possessed by his master Elijah. Relates
Oh,
that Elisha, go
i-
ahead.
is it just me, or does that sound like he's asking for double the dose?
Oh, totally. He
It's
wants double
like,
the dose,
it's like, hit me up another time.
right? Elisha's wish was granted, and that this spirit came to rest on him in a similar way. The objective of the offering fire sweet smell is to result in the desired divine qualities being bestowed on those who offer the sacrifice, and the whole people in
Whoa.
the case of public offering.
It almost seems like
Interesting.
it's saying they're getting high.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Wow.
Wow. They're getting high on the smell of God, right? You think they're burning cannabis incense and frankincense,
Oh, and many other things.
right? All right. The phrase sweet savor to the Lord indicates not the favorable
Also,
qualities.
just for context, this is a different person. So this is the Maaseh Hashem, the Acts of Hashem 27 from Rabbi Eliezer Ashkenazi from 16th century Venice.
Okay. The phrase a sweet savor to the Lord indicates not the favorable qualities of sacrifices, but on the contrary, alludes to a flaw in their nature. Should the worshiper imagine that he has atoned for his sin through the sacrifice, the Torah informs him that this is not the case. The sacrifice is merely a sweet savor, a foretaste of his future actions. If the worshiper does not make amends, then the Almighty will say in.
Oh, sorry.
That's good.
Also, oh yeah.
Will say in Isaiah 1:11, to what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices to me?
It's interesting. It reminds me of some of what Niels talked about with the whole idea of I forget who it was. Was it dang it, I'm forgetting which philosopher, like which great. Oh, Apollonius of Tyana. That you had this one drunkard that came to him and was like, "Why won't Asclepius heal me?" It's like, well, have you listened to what he tells you? And he's telling you that you need to take care of yourself.
Right. No, that's definitely a parallel. I see that. That's cool. All right. The sense of smell is attributed to the Almighty because of its figurative connotations. Just as sweet savor coming from a distance bears witness to the existence of something good in the offering, so every sweet savor used in reference to the sacrifice implies that the offering should be for God as a foretaste of the good deeds which the worshiper is destined to perform. It is called a sweet savor to the Lord because anything which can be detected by the sense before it has actually come into contact with the person may be said to have been smelled, to be in the air, as it is said in Job 39:25. And he smelled the battle from afar, implying that he smelled the battle even before it actually reached him. Every man who brings a sacrifice intends to make amends and become reconciled to the Almighty. Consequently, the sacrifice is regarded as a sweet savor to the Lord, as a foretaste of the good deeds to come. And Leibowitz adds, in other words, the sacrifice does not itself appropriate the Almighty, but serves as evidence of the good intentions of the worshiper to change their conduct in the future.
Interesting. So in some ways, it reminds me of the idea that here, let me see if I can actually find this real quick. But do you have any thoughts on this in the meantime?
It's interesting. It's like this idea that the sacrifice, it's not the act of the sacrifice that does anything, but the promise of future deeds. Like that's kind of interesting, right? And it's like what the sacrifice entails more so than the action itself.
So this actually reminds me of it reminds me of an Alan Watts quote. Do you know what I'm thinking of?
Not specifically, no, but I'm sure I'll recognize it.
All right, let me try and pull it up here. So this is something that's always stuck with me. And of course, I'm not going to be able to find it easily on YouTube, am I? How is it this difficult? I literally typed in the direct quote. Maybe I just need to put in only the first part. Okay. Oh, shoot. One second. Let's see. Here. Anything popping up? Okay, here. Let's see. Wait, where is it? I'm trying to find the original one. Is this? Damn, there's got to be one that's. Here, maybe this one.
Somewhat later, one of the doctors who had been associated with Aldous Huxley said to me, "Will you actually try this out and give us your views on it?" And it's very nice to be flattered as an authority. And also, I was just plain curious. And I'm the sort of person who'll try anything once. And so I submitted to being dosed with 100 micrograms of lysergic acid diethylamide number 25, which, baby, is not what you call acid. It's a very specific and particular chemical. I had an extraordinarily interesting experience, but I felt that it was an aesthetic experience, a mystical experience, and so reported. It was just fascinating, the changes of one's sense perception. It was as if, you know, a gadget called a kaleidoscope, which is a combination of a kaleidoscope and a telescope. You look through this thing, and it models everything you look at in fascinating patterns according to its own inner structure. And I felt that this drug did exactly the same thing as that it modified your nervous system in a certain way, like looking through a kaleidoscope telescope instead of a telescope telescope, and just jazzed everything up. And that was very interesting, and so what? Then later on, another psychiatrist approached me. He was in San Francisco at Langley Porter, and said, "I don't think you've really gone into this deeply enough. I think I could point out certain things to you that would be interesting, because you see, this drug is something that you have to learn how to use, just as you would learn how to use a microscope. There's a certain technique to it. Supposing you're a biologist or a bacteriologist, you've got to learn the art of using the instrument." So I said, okay, let's try it again. I was very skeptical of the whole thing. And lo and behold, I had what I simply could not deny being an experience of cosmic consciousness, the sense of complete, fundamental, total unity forever and ever with the whole universe. And not only that, but that what this thing was fundamentally, despite everything and every kind of appearance in ordinary life to the conscious, that the energy behind the world was ecstatic bliss and love. Well, I was very embarrassed by this.
It's almost like what you were talking about, the idea of, was it Lila?
Yeah.
Or no, it was
That's degrading everything. But yet
Lila's play.
no, but the idea that everything is
when Timothy Leary got in there,
maybe that was it.
Brahman, everything is one, right?
That wasn't what I was
thrown to the winds. And he felt that this is something that everybody really owed to himself. Everybody ought to be turned on. Well, I wasn't so sure about that, because I wouldn't say everybody ought to sail around the world in an open sailboat. You know, it's a great thing if you can do it, but I wouldn't sort of recommend it to anyone. I wouldn't say that everybody ought to spend 3 weeks absolutely alone in a forest to find out who you are. If you can take it, it's a great experience, but I wouldn't want to shove it down your throat.
Yeah, that was really cool.
That wasn't what I was thinking of, unfortunately. I guess that wasn't it. But basically, it's like, here, let me see, because I think I found the quote elsewhere. Here, I'll just type in the quote directly. Here. Here it is. So, if you get the message, hang up the phone. for psychedelic drugs are simply instruments like microscopes, telescopes, and telephones. The biologist does not sit with an eye permanently glued. What was it? Permanently glued to the microscope. He goes away and works on what he has seen, and that's exactly what it's talking about in what we just read. That it's
That's
not
true.
it's not enough to offer sacrifice, because ultimately the sacrifice, if you think about it, what is a sacrifice? At least with like a meat sacrifice, what are you actually doing? Like if you truly think about it.
I mean, you're committing an act of violence. You're destroying something.
So there's that, definitely, but you're also you're essentially feeding yourself. But
Yeah, that's true.
But you're blessing God, or you're recognizing that it's not about you only in the process.
That's true. That's true.
And so, like, at least to me, it seems that like when it comes to sacrifices, you're not really actually offering anything to God that God can't get on their own. Like the idea is that you're recognizing the role that God plays in it. That you're
Yeah,
not
that's
taking God
true.
for
This
granted.
this is explicit, at least in the Vedic form of sacrifice, right? You are participating in an ongoing sacrifice, right? You have a role to play, but it's not like, like if you didn't do it, it's not the end of the world either. Like, you're not necessary, but it's necessary for you if you want to experience something profound.
And I think by that note, the use of incense is not really because God likes the smell of it. It's because they're used in order to get us to places that we couldn't get necessarily on our own, or that would take a lot of time and meditation. And that those types of states of mind are what help us in being better people. But having those states of mind aren't enough to make us better people. It's like the idea of the sacrament can never be that the sacrament takes away your sins. It's that it helps you to realize what you've done and to improve on it.
Definitely, right? Definitely. And I think it's right. It's recognizing that for creation to move forward, there has to be death, right? There has to be this destruction. There has to be a consuming. There has to be an eating, like, and it's elevating this to this to this sacred understanding, right? Like, and we're also imitating God, right? This is what God does to everything, in a sense, destroys it and remakes it anew.
Yeah, and I mean, even with, like, for instance, like when you burn incense, you're creating a smell, but you're destroying the substance that contains it. You're destroying you're destroying the matrix that holds the smell within it.
Yep, that's a good point. But yeah, I think we should probably call it a night.
Definitely. This was really fun. We
Yeah,
should do this a lot in the future.
Definitely, I'm always down. Message me anytime. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And please check out our Myth and Lore server with Perot. Thank Mateus. But yeah, thank you everyone.
Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
All right. Bye, Ariel.
Bye.
But this song has become an anthem for our world right now. And you brought it down. May you be blessed for that. Before a million other good, deep, holy tears that you shed for our planet. And all the beauty that you bring to our world. May you be blessed for being a vessel for this melody that gives people hope and light every day. And you did that for me. I sang this song at Auschwitz. I've sung this song all over the place. I am so grateful.
I stood up in this spot 20 years ago, drumming on that shulchan. A lot of people here. It was Simchas Torah. We stayed till 4 a.m. I didn't know it was your birthday. Sometimes it takes a while to figure out what you were celebrating in the first place. So the words of this song is pretty simple. It's 3 Hebrew words. I'd love you to sing with me the whole time. Olam Chesed Yimaneh. This world is in deep, deep need of rebuilding. So we can do that, but only if we put Chesed first. It's a kind of love you just can't hold back. Thank God for all of our voices, because it doesn't work if it's only some of us. Here we go. Sing for everyone. Singing again.
Want to tell the Rebbe the words of the new song that we're singing with Mashiach, right? So I'm just going to read him. Am Yisrael, have no fear. Mashiach will be here this year. We want Mashiach now. We don't want to wait. Okay? We want Mashiach now. We want Mashiach now. Oh yeah, Am Yisrael, have no fear. Mashiach will be this year. Am Yisrael, have no fear. Mashiach will be here this year. We want Mashiach now. We want Mashiach now. We don't want to wait. We want Mashiach now. Mashiach now. We don't want to wait.